The call came at 2:14 inches the morning on a Thursday, and it changed everything I thought I knew about the people I called family. Mr. Hartwell, please don't board that cruise ship on Saturday. I know this sounds crazy, and you have every reason to hang up on me right now. But your nephew just filed a claim to increase your life insurance policy to $3 million. He forged your signature. And sir, I think he's planning something terrible. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding in a way it hadn't since my bypass surgery 3 years ago. The voice on the other end was young, female, and trembling slightly. Outside my window, the lights of Boston Harbor twinkled in the darkness, peaceful and unaware. "Who is this?" I demanded, reaching for my glasses on the nightstand. "My name is Jessica Okonkwo. I work at Northeast Mutual Insurance in the Claims Verification Department." "Mr. Hartwell, I'm calling you from my personal phone because what I found tonight made me sick to my stomach. I could lose my job for this. I probably will. But I couldn't just file a report and go home. Not after what happened to my grandmother." I pulled the phone away, checked the number. Unknown. Could be one of those elaborate scams targeting seniors. At 68, I'd heard plenty of pitches. But something in this young woman's voice, the way it cracked when she mentioned her grandmother, made me keep listening. "Tell me exactly what you found, Miss Okonkwo." She took a deep breath. 3 weeks ago, a request came through to modify your life insurance policy. The original policy was for $500,000, standard coverage. The modification increased it to $3 million, with your nephew, Kevin Hartwell, listed as the sole beneficiary. The signature on the form looked off to me. I ran it through our verification software. 61% match. That's way below our threshold. My chest tightened. Kevin, my brother, Daniel's son, the boy I'd helped raise after Daniel died in a car accident when Kevin was 15. The young man I'd put through college, helped buy his first house, welcomed into my home every Thanksgiving and Christmas for the past 20 years. "I didn't authorize any changes to my policy," I said slowly. "I know, sir. That's why I'm calling. But here's what really scared me." She paused, and I heard papers shuffling. I pulled up your file history. Over the past 8 months, there have been multiple changes to your accounts. Your emergency contact was changed from your longtime physician to Kevin. Your secondary beneficiary on your retirement accounts was removed. And 2 months ago, someone requested copies of your medical records, claiming to be your healthcare proxy. The room felt suddenly cold despite the August heat. Kevin and his wife Melissa had been visiting more often lately. Always so helpful, so concerned about my health. "Uncle Richard, you're working too hard." "Uncle Richard, have you thought about that Alaska cruise? You've always wanted to see the glaciers. Let us book it for you. Our treat." "There's more," Jessica continued, her voice dropping. "I did some digging I probably shouldn't have. The cruise you're booked on, the Northern Lights Expedition, departs Saturday from Seattle. Your cabin is on deck 12, the highest passenger deck. Balcony suite. Very private, very isolated. The ship will be in remote Alaskan waters for 6 days with limited satellite communication." "How do you know all this?" "Because I spent the last 4 hours going through everything after I flagged that signature." "Mr. Hartwell," she said, her voice cracking, "my grandmother went through something like this 5 years ago. Her caregiver convinced her to go on a trip to Florida, then tried to push her down the stairs at the rental house. Made it look like an accident. Grandma survived, but she broke her hip, her arm, 3 ribs. The caregiver claimed she fell. No witnesses. No proof. She walked away with $40,000 from my grandmother's accounts and never spent a day in jail. My grandmother never walked normally again." "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I became an insurance investigator because of her. Because I wanted to catch people like that before they hurt someone. When I saw the pattern in your file tonight, the timing with the cruise, your nephew being the sole beneficiary of a policy he secretly tripled, something in my gut screamed. I know how this sounds. I know you might think I'm crazy. But if I'm wrong, you can report me, and I'll accept the consequences. If I'm right, though," she didn't finish. She didn't need to. "What would you do, Miss Okonkwo, if you were me?" "I'd act normal. Go on the cruise. but I'd prepare for everything. And Mr. Hartwell, I'd really like to be wrong about this. For your sake. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness of my bedroom for a long time. This house in Beacon Hill had been my home for 35 years. My wife Eleanor and I had raised no children of our own, but we'd poured our love into Kevin after Daniel died. Eleanor had been the one who insisted we pay for his education. She'd been the one who welcomed Melissa into our family when Kevin got married 12 years ago. And when Eleanor passed from ovarian cancer 6 years ago, Kevin had stood beside me at her funeral and promised he'd always be there for me. I'd believed him. I'd believed everything. The cruise had been Kevin's idea. Pitched to me 2 months ago over dinner at his house in Newton. Uncle Richard, you've been cooped up in that house for too long. Melissa's travel agent found this incredible deal on an Alaska cruise. Glacier viewing, whale watching, the whole experience. You always talked about seeing Alaska with Aunt Eleanor. Why not go now, in her memory? I'd been touched, moved by his thoughtfulness. I'd agreed immediately. Now, sitting in my dark bedroom, those puzzle pieces were arranging themselves into a picture I didn't want to see. I called Jessica Okonkwo back at 7 a.m. She answered on the first ring. Mr. Hartwell, I was hoping you'd call. I need to see everything, every document, every modification, every detail you found. Can you meet me this morning? There's a Starbucks on Newbury Street. I can be there in an hour. I'll be there in 45 minutes. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. Instead, I went through my files, found the documents Kevin had brought over 4 months ago. Estate planning updates, he'd called them. His lawyer friend had explained them quickly, lots of legal language. I'd signed them, trusting my nephew. Now, reading them carefully with the eyes of someone who'd spent 40 years as a structural engineer analyzing every detail, I found it buried in paragraph 9, subsection C. Transfer of healthcare proxy and financial power of attorney to Kevin Michael Hartwell, effective immediately upon incapacitation as determined by 2 licensed physicians. I'd signed away control of my own life to my nephew. Jessica Okonkwo was already waiting when I arrived at the Starbucks. A young black woman in her late 20s with box braids pulled back in a professional bun and intelligent eyes that studied me carefully as I approached. Mr. Hartwell, she said, standing to shake my hand. Thank you for coming. Thank you for calling me. That took courage. We sat in the back corner, away from other customers. She opened her laptop, angled it toward me. I printed hard copies of everything, but I wanted you to see the digital trail too. For the next 2 hours, she walked me through it. Kevin had been methodical. The insurance policy modification 3 weeks ago. The beneficiary changes on my retirement account 6 months ago. The request for my medical records 2 months ago, signed with a power of attorney document I didn't remember signing, but apparently had. There's something else, Jessica said quietly. She pulled up a credit card statement. This card is linked to a shell company registered in Delaware, Hartwell Family Trust, LLC. Guess who the sole authorized user is? Kevin. Yes. And look at this purchase from 3 weeks ago. A pharmacy in Worcester. Sedatives. Specifically, a high dose of temazepam. Enough to knock out someone your size for hours. Maybe permanently, if mixed with alcohol. The coffee in front of me had gone cold. I pushed it away. My nephew is planning to kill me. I believe so, sir. I'm so sorry. I looked at this young woman who'd risked her career to warn a complete stranger. Why did you do this? You could have just flagged the file, passed it up the chain. Jessica was quiet for a moment. Because the system failed my grandmother. Reports filed, investigations opened, nothing happened until it was too late. By the time anyone took her seriously, she was lying in a hospital bed with a broken body and an empty bank account. The woman who raised me, who worked 3 jobs to put me through college, spent her last years in pain because nobody bothered to make a phone call. She looked up at me, and I saw tears in her eyes that she was fighting to hold back. When I saw your file, I thought about what would have happened if someone had called my grandmother the night before her trip, if someone had warned her. So, I became that someone. For you, I reached across the table, squeezed her hand. Thank you, Jessica, truly. Now, I need your help with something. What are you going to do? I'm going on that cruise. Sir, that's insane. I'm going on that cruise, I repeated, but not the way Kevin planned. Can you stall any new insurance modifications for 72 hours? She nodded slowly. I can flag the file for extended review. Buy you 3 days, maybe 4. That's all I need. My first call was to my physician, Dr. Rothberg. I'd known Miriam Rothberg for 25 years. She'd been Eleanor's oncologist and had become my primary care doctor after Eleanor passed. I explained everything. Richard, she said slowly, this is horrifying. We need to go to the police. Not yet, Miriam. I need something from you first. A complete evaluation. Physical, cognitive, everything. Documented proof that I'm of sound mind and body. You're building a case. I'm protecting myself. Can you do it today? By 4 p.m., I had a complete medical workup. Dr. Rothberg had called in 2 colleagues for independent assessments. All 3 signed statements confirming that Richard Allen Hartwell, age 68, was mentally sharp, physically healthy for his age, and absolutely not someone who needed a guardian or healthcare proxy making decisions for him. My second call was to my attorney, Patricia Simmons. She'd handled my legal affairs for 15 years. When I told her what I'd discovered, she went quiet for a long moment. Richard, the documents Kevin had you sign are legally binding, unless we can prove fraud or undue influence. We need evidence of forgery, misrepresentation. I have evidence, Patricia. Forged signatures, modifications I never authorized, sedatives purchased under a shell company, draft emergency motions to revoke everything. I'll sign them before I leave for Seattle. You're still going on that cruise? I'm absolutely going on that cruise. My third call was the hardest. I called my old friend Marcus Webb, retired FBI agent, now doing private security consulting. We'd met 30 years ago when I was designing a new federal building in Washington, shared season tickets to the Red Sox for 2 decades. He'd stood beside me at Eleanor's funeral, one of only 3 people I trusted completely in this world. Over whiskey at his apartment in Cambridge, I explained everything. Jesus Christ, Richard, your own nephew. I need eyes on me, Marcus. Someone Kevin doesn't know. Someone who can intervene if things go wrong. You're using yourself as bait. I'm controlling the situation. There's a difference. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, then sighed. I know a woman in Alaska, former Secret Service, now runs a private investigation firm in Anchorage, specialist in maritime security. I'll reach out. The flight to Seattle was surreal. I took a taxi to the airport, met Kevin and Melissa at the gate. They were all smiles. Uncle Richard, Kevin said, embracing me. You look great. Ready for the adventure of a lifetime? I hugged him back, memorizing how it felt. The arms of the boy I'd taught to ride a bike in my driveway. The man I'd toasted at his wedding reception. The nephew I'd loved like a son for 20 years. I've been looking forward to this for weeks, I said. That, at least, was true. Melissa kissed my cheek. She was pretty in a calculated way. Blonde highlights, perfect makeup, designer clothes that seemed too expensive for a couple who claimed to be struggling financially. I'd written them checks totaling over $100,000 in the past 3 years to help with their mortgage, their cars, their vacations. Invested in Kevin's failed restaurant venture. Co-signed the loan for Melissa's boutique that went bankrupt. Uncle Richard, Melissa said sweetly, you're going to love the ship. Our cabin is right next to yours. We can have dinner together every night. I smiled. How thoughtful. On the ship, Kevin insisted I take the cabin with the larger balcony. Best views of the glaciers from that side. Uncle Richard. I checked. The cabin was beautiful. Private veranda, king-size bed, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the endless Pacific. It was also, as Jessica had noted, extremely isolated. The nearest occupied cabin was 50 feet away. The balcony overlooked nothing but open water and a 12-story drop to the churning sea below. I unpacked slowly, checking every corner of the room, found the tiny camera hidden in the smoke detector, another in the thermostat. Kevin had been thorough. I smiled at them, waved slightly. Let him think I suspected nothing. At 7 p.m., my phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. In position. Deck 14, Staff Quarters, friend of Marcus. Name's Denise. I have eyes on your cabin and your nephews. Signal is you drop something on your balcony. Once means you're okay. Twice means trouble. I stepped onto my balcony, dropped my room key, bent to pick it up. Once. Dinner that night was Alaskan king crab and deception. Kevin asked about my health, my retirement plans, whether I'd thought more about updating my will. I've actually been meaning to talk to you about that, I said carefully. I want to make sure you and Melissa are taken care of. Kevin's eyes flickered. Something between hope and hunger. We just want what's best for you, Uncle Richard. I know you do. That night, I didn't sleep. Sat in a chair facing the door, lights off, listening. At 3:47 a.m., I heard it. The soft beep of a keycard reader. The click of my cabin door opening. I kept my breathing even, watching through nearly closed eyes. Kevin entered slowly, silhouette backlit by the dim hallway. He stood over my bed for a long moment, staring at the pillows I'd arranged under the blankets to look like a sleeping body. His hand held something small, a pill bottle. He stood there for what felt like an eternity. Then he turned and left, closing the door softly behind him. I texted Denise immediately. He was in my cabin, had pills, didn't do anything. Her response came seconds later. Documented. Camera caught everything from the hallway angle. Stay alert. The next morning, Kevin suggested a shore excursion. There's this amazing glacier hike, Uncle Richard. The guide says it's appropriate for all fitness levels. Melissa and I already signed up. Come with us? I agreed, knowing exactly where this was going. The hike was brutal. Despite what the brochure claimed about all fitness levels, the trail was steep, icy in places, with several points where a slip would send someone tumbling into a crevasse or off a cliff face. Melissa walked beside me, arm linked through mine, pointing out the scenery. Kevin trailed behind with his phone, filming everything. For the memories, he explained. At the highest point, where the trail narrowed to a ledge with a 1,000-foot drop to the glacier below, Kevin stopped. Uncle Richard, look at this view. Stand right here at the edge. Melissa, get next to him. I want a picture with the glacier behind you. I walked to where he pointed, felt Melissa's hand on my lower back, positioning me closer to the edge. Kevin raised his phone. Behind them, barely visible in the tree line, I saw Denise. Ex-Secret Service, built like a linebacker, camera ready. Smile, Kevin said. His phone was recording, not photographing. I could see the red light. I turned to face him. Kevin, do you remember when you were 16 and you crashed my car? You'd taken it without permission, wrapped it around a telephone pole on Route 9. He blinked, confused. What? Uncle Richard, what does that have to do with anything? You were terrified. Not because you were hurt, but because you thought I'd hate you. You thought I'd send you away like your mother did when she remarried. I picked up my phone, scrolled to the screenshots Jessica had sent me. But I didn't send you away, did I? I took you to the hospital, sat with you while they stitched up your forehead, told the police it was an accident, that I'd given you permission. Remember what I said to you that night? Kevin's face had gone pale. Uncle Richard, I said, you're my family, Kevin. No matter what you do, I'll never abandon you. That's what family means. Tears were forming in his eyes now. Real or performed, I couldn't tell anymore. I believed it then. I believed it when I paid for your college, when I gave you the down payment for your house, when I wrote check after check after check because you said you needed help. I believed we were family. I held up my phone, showed him the insurance documents, the forged signatures, the shell company records. The insurance modification didn't go through, Kevin. $3 million with you as sole beneficiary. A young woman named Jessica Okonkwo flagged it. She called me 3 days ago. Saved my life, probably. Kevin stumbled backward. Melissa's hand dropped from my back. Marcus, the restaurant, the boutique. We lost everything. Kevin's voice was desperate now. The debts. Uncle Richard. You don't understand. They were going to take the house. We were drowning. So you decided to speed up my death. Get the insurance payout. Inherit the estate. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Melissa suddenly spoke up, her voice cracking. Kevin said you were old, sick, that it would be merciful, that you'd want us to have the money rather than some charity. We were desperate. Merciful. I let the word hang in the air. You were going to drug me, push me off a balcony or a cliff, and call it merciful? Kevin's face crumpled. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. We can fix this. We'll pay back everything. I'll get help. Just please, Uncle Richard, please don't do this. Denise emerged from the trees, badge visible on her jacket. Kevin and Melissa, I'm going to need you both to come with me. Local authorities have been notified. Kevin looked at me, betrayal and terror mixing on his face. You set us up. I protected myself. There's a difference. I turned and walked back down the trail. Behind me, I heard Melissa crying, Kevin pleading. I didn't look back. Couldn't. If I did, I might waver, and I'd already given this boy too many second chances. The next 72 hours were a blur of police interviews, evidence gathering, and paperwork. Jessica Okonkwo flew to Alaska on her own vacation days, bringing hard copies of everything she'd compiled. The Anchorage police were thorough. They found the sedatives in Kevin's luggage, found text messages between him and Melissa discussing what they called the plan, found the forged power of attorney documents, the shell company records, everything. My attorney, Patricia, flew up to file the emergency motions. Within 48 hours, every document Kevin had tricked me into signing was declared void pending criminal investigation. My accounts were frozen and then unfrozen under my sole control. Kevin and Melissa were arrested. Bail was set at $400,000 each. I could have paid it. I didn't. The trial was 5 months later. I sat in a Boston courtroom and listened to prosecutors lay out the evidence. Kevin's lawyer tried to paint him as desperate, manipulated by Melissa, drowning in debt with no way out. Melissa's lawyer blamed Kevin, said she'd been coerced, that she'd never actually intended to hurt anyone. Neither story held up against the recordings Denise had made, against Jessica's meticulous documentation, against the sedatives and the forged signatures and the text messages planning exactly how to make my death look like an accident. The jury took 4 hours. Kevin Michael Hartwell, the judge announced, a severe-looking man in his 70s who'd clearly seen too much of humanity's worst. You are found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, elder abuse, and forgery. Given the premeditated nature of these crimes against a family member who trusted you implicitly, I sentence you to 15 years in federal prison. Melissa Hartwell, you are found guilty as an accomplice and co-conspirator. You are sentenced to 10 years. Kevin looked at me as they led him away in handcuffs. His mouth opened, but no words came out. I held his gaze for a moment. Then I looked away. Outside the courthouse, Jessica Okonkwo was waiting. She'd taken time off work to attend the sentencing, driven down from Boston that morning. Mr. Hartwell, she said softly, how are you holding up? I don't know, I admitted. I sat down on the courthouse steps, suddenly exhausted. He was like a son to me, Jessica. I raised him from the time he was 15, and I just watched him get sentenced to 15 years in prison. She sat beside me. You didn't do this to him. He made his choices. You just refused to be his victim. Doesn't make it hurt less. No, she agreed. I guess it doesn't. We sat in silence for a while, watching people come and go from the courthouse. My grandmother passed away last year, Jessica said eventually. But before she died, she told me something. She said that choosing to protect yourself doesn't make you selfish. It makes you smart. And that she wished someone had taught her that lesson before it was too late. I looked at this young woman who'd risked everything to help a stranger. Your grandmother sounds like she was a remarkable woman. She was. And she would have liked you, Mr. Hartwell. She would have said you did the right thing. I stood up, reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out an envelope. Jessica, I've been thinking about something for a while now. About what you did for me. About the risks you took. She shook her head. Mr. Hartwell, you don't owe me anything. I did what anyone should have done. No, I said firmly. You did what almost no one does. You saw something wrong, and you acted. You didn't file a report and forget about it. You didn't tell yourself it wasn't your problem. You picked up the phone at 2 in the morning and called a complete stranger because your gut told you he needed help. I handed her the envelope. "What is this?" she asked, confused. "Open it." She did. Her eyes went wide. "Mr. Hartwell, I can't accept this. It's not charity, Jessica. It's payment. $1 million, split into 2 parts. $500,000 for you, to pay off your student loans, buy a house, build the life you deserve, and $500,000 to establish the Eleanor Hartwell Foundation for Elder Protection, which I want you to run." She stared at me, mouth open. "I don't understand." "My wife, Eleanor, would have loved you," I said simply. "She always said the world needed more people who did the right thing even when it was hard. You're one of those people, Jessica, and I want to make sure you have the resources to keep doing it." Tears were streaming down her face now. "Mr. Hartwell, I don't know what to say. Say you'll accept. Say you'll use that foundation to help other people the way you helped me. Say you'll make sure that what happened to your grandmother, what almost happened to me, happens to fewer people in the future." She hugged me then, this young woman I'd known for only 5 months, and I hugged her back. And somehow, it felt like the first real embrace I'd had in years. 3 months later, I stood at the dedication ceremony for the Eleanor Hartwell Foundation for Elder Protection. Jessica had worked tirelessly to get it running. They'd already hired a staff of 6, set up a hotline for seniors to report suspected financial abuse, partnered with banks and insurance companies to improve fraud detection. I looked out at the small crowd gathered in the Foundation's new offices in downtown Boston. Dr. Rothberg was there, and Patricia Simmons, and Marcus Webb. Jessica's mother had flown in from Atlanta, crying happy tears. Even Denise had come down from Alaska. These people, I realized, were my family now. Not by blood, but by choice. I stepped to the microphone. "My wife Eleanor believed that family wasn't about blood," I said. "It was about who shows up when you need them, who risks something to help you, who tells you hard truths even when it's easier to stay silent." 6 months ago, a young woman I'd never met made a phone call at 2 in the morning that probably saved my life. She didn't know me. She had no obligation to help me. But she did it anyway, because that's who she is. I looked at Jessica, saw her wiping her eyes. Eleanor would have said that Jessica Okonkwo is more family to me than the nephew I raised for 20 years. And Eleanor would have been right. I paused, collecting myself. This foundation exists because one person decided to do the right thing. And my hope is that it will help create more people like her. People who see something wrong and act. People who pick up the phone at 2 in the morning. People who remind us that sometimes a stranger's warning is the only thing standing between us and tragedy. I raised my glass. To Eleanor, to Jessica, and to everyone who chooses to be family, even when they don't have to be. 6 months after the trial, Kevin wrote me a letter from prison. I read it once, then put it in a drawer. He apologized, asked for forgiveness, asked if I might visit. I thought about it for weeks, talked to Dr. Rothberg, to Marcus, to Jessica. In the end, I decided not to respond. Not because I couldn't forgive him, but because I wasn't sure I should. Some betrayals are too deep. Some trust, once broken, can't be rebuilt. But I did do one thing. Kevin had a daughter from his first marriage, a 19-year-old named Emma, who was studying nursing at Boston University. She'd had nothing to do with her father's crimes, had been horrified when she learned what he'd planned. I'd reached out to her after the trial, made it clear I didn't blame her for her father's choices. Now, I set up a trust fund for her education and first home, structured carefully so Kevin could never touch it. Made sure she understood that whatever her father had done, she was still family to me. She cried when I told her, said she didn't deserve it. "Your father made his choices," I said. "You get to make yours. Make good ones." I'm 70 now. 2 years have passed since that phone call in the middle of the night. I still live in my house in Beacon Hill, but it doesn't feel empty anymore. Jessica comes over for dinner every Sunday. Her mother visits from Atlanta 3 times a year, always bringing her incredible pound cake. Marcus and I still have our Red Sox tickets. Dr. Rothberg insists on monthly checkups that have become more social visits than medical appointments. The foundation has helped over 200 seniors in the past year alone, recovered nearly $4 million in stolen funds, put 17 predators behind bars. Jessica runs it with the same fierce determination she brought to that late-night phone call, and I've never been prouder of anyone in my life. Kevin will be eligible for parole in 10 years. I don't know if I'll go to the hearing. Some days I think I might. Most days I know I won't. But here's what I've learned in these 2 years, what I wish someone had told me long before that night. Family isn't about who you're related to. It's about who shows up, who risks something, who makes a phone call at 2 in the morning because their gut tells them someone needs help. Jessica Okonkwo showed up for me when my own blood was plotting my death. She's more family to me now than Kevin ever was. And the foundation we built together, the lives we've saved, the people we've helped, that's Eleanor's legacy. That's what family really means. Sometimes a stranger's warning is the only thing between you and fate. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is answer the phone.